Hi viewers, welcome to a overview for AnyAUT. One of the prime questions that I get asked very regularly by everyone across the globe who's getting exposed to it. So what is AnyAUT? Why was it built? And what does it really do? So here's a quick PowerPoint that will try and walk through some of the features. Now, it's primarily a test automation framework that is built using Selenium WebDriver, Code Java, and TestNG. Now let's take a look at exactly what it is doing and why it was built to start with. The core pain. In today's world, automation is no longer it's good to have. It's become a necessity. It's a need. And every QA team and organization across the globe have this challenge to move there. And migrating is not easy again. For manual QA engineers to kind of accept the fact that automation requires coding and we need to learn that and get there is a big challenge. And that coding aspect is one thing that restricts a lot of our QA professionals globally to be able to achieve this. And there's no script-free framework truly that is available today that do not solve some of the most common issues. Selenium IDE, great tool, amazing, but it just works on Firefox and it's just got a basic thing. It cannot do conditions. It cannot do runs on multiple sets of test data. While it is free and it has got the basic UI, it is at a beginner level. And that's why Selenium went about creating WebDriver. But then it's got a lot of coding to go with it. And to build an automation framework which can be easily implemented for any QA project is a humongous, Herculean task. And it's never easy. HPUFT, earlier called as QTP, again, a great tool, everything in one installation, all in there, simple VB scripting. It's got actions, it's got data tables, it's got checkpoints, it got so many other features and inbuilt reports. It's got everything into it. But at the same time, it is not really truly cross-browser or parallel test runs. And one of the most important things is it is expensive. In today's world of open source and disruptive technologies, it is a challenge for HP to really say what UFT can do for the value of the money. Looking at the competition. But again, I'm a true lover of HP QFT, QTP and UFT. That's when it started. But that's a fact. And then came Robot Framework. And this was amazing. Great solution. It uses the power of Selenium WebDriver, simple installation, custom keywords, test data, everything. But to get started was not easy and the codes were each scattered across multiple files. It was never easy to manage and put them all together and say, this is my overall test suite with 500 or 1,000 or a 2,000 set of test cases into it. And that's where robot framework also, I believe, and I've trained people on it, that is lacking. And then we have SaaS solutions. A lot of private solutions that have come up and they have done an amazing job. They have taken care of all these problems, but you got to pay as you use. That's the other challenge. Now, how does Selenium fit into the whole concept of AnyAUT? So here's a quick diagram that I drew. It kind of tells the story. A user is primarily working with AnyAUT, which is a web UI tool. He or she can create a test suite where they can maintain test cases, modules, test steps, and so on. They have the ability to choose what tests they want to run right now for which regression release. They have the ability then to run this test directly on Selenium. So all this is being done on the web UI. And finally, view the results of what happened with the test. Did it fail? Where did it fail? How did it fail? Can I look at it? And also the amazing feature that this web UI could be exported to an Excel at different stages. And that gives you the flexibility to manage it as a continuous manual testing process, It is automatically automated on Selenium, so you do not have to do any additional stuff to be able to run it using Selenium WebDriver. Cross-browser testing, parallel runs over the grid, and some beautiful results. Some of these are currently available and some of these are the future options that are coming up, and you look at that in the next few slides. So it saves time. It is really talking about the value of effort and time spent both by the manual engineers and the automation team, the entire IT organization. So how do we ensure that the resources are not only developing this but are also using this actively? How do we ensure that we save on the budget and the project costs that can very quickly go skyrocketing? And then how do we ensure no coding? How do we ensure that at the end of everything, we don't want to be ending up coding, at least for the basic most part, 70-80% of our test scenarios? So here is a slide which talks about the web app. How does it look? What will AnyAUT have in the web application? So let's start with that and then we'll go into the other. So there's a simple registration page. A user can sign up for free. Then we have the user login where the user is logging into the application. The first thing the user does is starts to build a test, not a test, starts to build a test. What you see right now is a dashboard, a great view to quickly see what has been put into this tool so far by that individual user. The first thing they do is enter an application, very basic information about it. We try to keep it as lean as possible. The next is add or edit modules, and this talks about we divide the entire application functionality into blocks or modules that can be easily managed. Then we add and edit test cases to these individual modules and say that, hey, these test cases belong to this module, like user registration or e-commerce or admin and so on. And then we associate the test steps, which is the most important portion of it. Test steps basically say that every test case is broken down into multiple steps, and how does each step work? What does the user have to do? And let's visualize all of this as a manual test engineer. Forget about automation for now. So what does the user have to do to test a scenario? As simple as it could be a user trying to log into Gmail and send an email. So they open Gmail, they click on login link, enter username, enter password, click on sign in, then they go and click on compose email, enter to address, enter a subject, put a body and say send, and they verify that it is sent and they log out. Now these steps become the individual actions that the user takes, and all of these steps we do something with these few reusable items. An element map which helps us to put all the elements or objects that we find in a web page in a repository that helps us to easily manage them, and anytime the application goes through a change and the elements change in the location or in their attributes, it can easily be done in one place and it reflects in every step. Then we have the reusable test data. A lot of scenarios where we want to run the same test case against multiple sets of test data to see how it behaves. Some will pass, some may fail, but then we can look at the failed ones and be able to figure out why did it fail for this test data and do a deeper reproduction of the test error or defect and then pass it on to the development team. And what we also have a set of over 60 low-level keywords that are inbuilt or predefined. And these are the most common actions that the user does. Things like opening a browser, click a link, type a text, select from a drop-down list, select something from a checkbox group, radio button group, or click on a checkbox and so on. These are the things that we've put in already, and the user gets the ability to associate them with the test steps, and from there they are able to easily transition this to automation testing. And this is where some of the crux or integration components come for it. And finally, we have one of these beautiful features called adding or editing high-level keywords. A lot of times in any scenario, there are actions or activities that are reusable or repetitive. And simplest example is a user login. We go to open a browser, we navigate to a URL, we enter username, password, click on login, confirm that we've signed in, and then we go about executing everything else. Now these few steps could have been used in, let's say, over 200 test scenarios. Now tomorrow the application goes through a change and the user has an ability to check or uncheck a box which says remember me. Now you will have to go back and change all those 200 scenarios, or we create a reusable high-level keyword which says user login, and it has specific information that it takes as inputs, and then anytime we need to change that, we change it in one place and it reflects everywhere. This is primarily reusability team. How quickly and easily can we maintain our test scenarios? So a lot of what you saw right now is about doing manually. The low level keywords, high level keywords, element map, test data is not, maybe test data, yes, but other things are not so applicable to manual testing. However, to switch to automation testing, this is what AnyAUT will do further. We get to a screen where you can actually select if you want to run for all the test cases in a given module, or select a few of them, or you want to say this module in this regression test run I don't want to run, and you save that by selecting or associating the selected test cases with the sets of test data that you created, and you execute it, and then you can get the different runs that you've created and say execute tests. At this point, ideally the future version of AnyAUT will trigger the installed application on your iOS or Windows platform and start to run the tests. And these tests are run on web browsers across multiple of them. So how does the automation on core engine work? So I showed you that you could run it. So we've used Selenium WebDriver and we know its capabilities on how it can do cross-browser testing. We kept it script independent, so no changes actually need to be done by the end user. They just register, sign in and start working with it directly. We have built in the frameworks, be it data-driven, keyword-driven, or the page factory. And that's what we've spoken about. We've used Java as our backend. It's fast, it's got powerful APIs, easily deployed, and it runs anywhere. These are some of the simple reasons we wanted to go with Java. And then we clubbed it with TestNG. It's going to help us with parallel test runs and generating a testng.xml. That will really help us to run and take this AnyAUT into the future direction. Now at the end, the users get to see a beautiful set of HTML results report, which we've used extent reports for right now, and they have come up with an amazing solution. As of now, it's a free solution, AnyAUT, and we've taken the free version from extent reports. But as we move forward, we want to get into a more of a membership based system with them so we can continue to use. And I don't believe in reinventing the wheel. So Selenium, Java, TestNG or open source. Extent reports has got the GNU license with certain limitations, and we're going to get there. But it shows us how many tests we have run, how long did it take, how many failures did we have at a high level, and I can dig down deep and see what happened with each test case, what are the steps that were executed, what passed, what failed, why did it fail, with a screenshot. And that would go into our defect report. Here comes the beta version workflow, almost like a quick summary of what I spoke so far. A user gets to build a test suite, the entire thing, app AUT, modules, test cases, test steps, element maps, test data, high-level keywords, put them all in there. And you could export that anytime into a easy manageable Excel file. A user also gets to select what test cases they want to run. And that's a great ability because for every regression run, we may not have enough time or resources to execute everything. We want to pick some, and that is also done through the web UI. Finally, the user right now in the beta version selects the run test, selects and runs the test through the web UI, but the engine has to be manually executed through a batch or an exe file installed on the Windows machine right now, in the future iOS as well. And the engine goes about creating a series of steps after execution, generating in the results file. So once the results file is generated, the user gets to view them in the web UI. That is how the beta version has been put together. And there are a lot of features coming in the future releases. We want to make it more friendly, user friendly. User experience has to be paramount to us. We want it to be idiot proof. What we mean is we cannot make a mistake. It should be so smooth. Just like all the new technologies and apps that we use in today's world have such an amazing, easy user experience. And that's what is a prime paramount area to focus on. We want to do the integrated environment. So do everything through the web UI. Instead of saying, I'll do half on the web UI, half through a desktop application. No, everything will be triggered and executed from there. Parallel test runs run on a distributed grid or cloud. How do we ensure we also involve defect reporting and defect tracking into it? How can we get to automating mobile apps using APM? That's another great feature that we could do. And how do we constantly build some reusable high-level keywords as an open marketplace? This concept is very simple. Once we go about doing it, some of these modules, test cases, element maps, and so on could be common. Let's say there's a customer or a client who's using Salesforce and they've done some customization. As part of the workflow, they have the base out of the box salesforce.com that they've taken, and it is the same test cases, the same test suite which will be there for them. They want to start with that and be able to customize it and don't have to reinvent or rewrite the entire test suite. So that's a vision thing. Again, I need to look at how the market talks back to us and then take a call. So what's a summary? Beta is a start team. This is how we're starting with it. And then we want to look at the how do we ensure we go more from the currently limited features, single user, single application and a test, and a free model. We want to keep our core focus on the easiness of it. How can we repeat it constantly? The power of the entire Selenium WebDriver core Java TestNG platform to run these tests and keep them still accurate. How do we go from manual to automation without too much of a headache, especially with zero coding and a lot of maintenance? That's one of the key things that we are trying to focus with AnyAUT. We want to keep it open source as long as possible, and that's the intent. It's not like we are coming up with a great new disruptive technology, but we would like to keep it that way. But yes, we understand customers have customizations to do, and we want to be able to handle that as well. And right now, very glad with our entire IT Learn Workasa as a group. We have some amazing amount of testers globally who are testing this application, and the market is going to talk to us. And that's a long road ahead. Thank you so much for joining in. Thank you for listening in. Bye now.